Welcome to another edition of the Gridiron Report. I'm Jarret Johnson, and I want to start off again by, hoping everyone is staying safe out there. I'm wishing you and yours well. And really, that's what everyone's talking about is the coronavirus, COVID-19, and how it's going to affect the start of college football season. And as these athletes have been brought back to campus, there's been testing going on, and there's been a lot of positive tests. Now, there hasn't been any cases in terms of serious cases. At least I haven't heard of anybody being seriously ill from the college athletic ranks, and I haven't heard, certainly at Texas Tech, for example, they've released stuff on in terms of all the programs that have come back. There have been some positives. They mentioned basketball, football, track, both men's and women's, track and field. There have been positive tests. But to give you an idea of football, they finally released some more exact numbers. And 23 people within the Texas Tech football program tested positive. And at least as of now, all 23 of those guys have recovered. Those people in the program, whether it be players or staff or what have you, all 23 have recovered. So I think people have asked me to define recovered. I think no longer showing symptoms and testing negative would be deemed recovered. So that's what I've been told. That's how I understand it. So the latest news here this week is the Ivy League canceled all sports, and at least until next year, until January 1st. That means no more football for Ivy League. Now, some people take that as a signal as, this could mean Power 5 football, the rest of Division I football is soon to cancel, the season. And I don't agree with that. Now, I know that the Ivy League was one of the first to cancel their conference basketball tournament, and then the dominoes fell after that. But I don't agree with the correlation there, because look, bottom line is the rest of Division I football, and specifically Power 5 football, Texas Tech, for example, in the Big 12, this is a completely different game than what we're talking about Ivy League football. And I think when I say that, now I'm not really talking about as much as the level of play, though I am, as I am just how much the revenue means to the university, how much the revenue means to the athletic department. And I think that's where where we need to look and keep in mind is that these teams need, for example, Texas Tech, they need the television money, and the contracts with the television, the media, with these conferences are all different. But one thing that is easy to gather, that these teams need to play the majority of their schedule in order to receive the majority, if not all, of their TV contract money. It's big time money. Now, don't get me wrong, the tickets, what they make at the gate, all that, those are, that's revenue that they need as well. But the TV money is something that I think what we need to look at, and as a reason why I believe that the powers that be are going to do everything in their power to make sure there is a football season. All right. Now, while I wasn't concerned by the Ivy League announcement, I was concerned by a couple of other items, news items. Both North Carolina and Ohio State postponed or paused their voluntary workouts for a week. Now, what's a week? That's not such a big deal, but I do want to say that they're on a timeline. And let me give you that timeline. The NCAA approved a 6-week calendar leading up to college football season, because football, all sports you need to get in shape for that specific sport, but I think football is unique in just in the terms of the contact, the physical nature of it. That it really is a process to get ready for the season, and this is the six-week calendar that the NCAA set out for college football programs. Okay, voluntary workouts began June 1st to the 25th. Now, actually, Texas Tech, we're still doing voluntary workouts. They actually start required workouts next week for the guys on campus. And that's still going to be a lot of the conditioning and just the workouts. And walkthroughs and meetings begin July 24th, all right? So that's 14 days before the first preseason practice day. All right, so what we're talking about is 8 hours of weight training, 6 hours of walkthrough with football, and 6 hours of meetings is what is allowed. All right, then preseason practices, and this is what we know as fall camp, is set to begin August 7th. And that's when Texas Tech is definitely scheduled to begin. That's when their local media day, which is going to be virtual, would be. And then, the Big 12 Media Day is also going to be virtual, is July 20th and 21st. Texas Tech Day is the 20th. So what you have is you've had voluntary workouts, and Texas Tech has been doing that. Then you have, next week you start required workouts. And then you have the walkthroughs and meetings with Tech coaches. And then August 7th, boom, you start training camp leading up to, 3 weeks before Tech is scheduled to kick off their season. So, and I think that's really what's important. I want to read you a quote from Steve Lyons. He's the athletic director for West Virginia, but he's also the head of the oversight committee for football in the country. And here's a quote he had in a recent story by ESPN just about the timeline and what to expect, and really the main date to look out for. He says, quote, "We feel that the last week of July, you could potentially go into that first week in August, which is roughly 3 weeks prior to the first game, and start making decisions. But that's really pushing up against the deadline at that point. What I'm being told by the medical experts is the next 2.5 to 3 weeks is really going to tell us what August and the possibility of starting a season in September is going to look like, more than continuing practice activities." So the bottom line is the next couple of weeks is really going to tell us if the season is going to start on time. I wouldn't be surprised by any number of things. If it's delayed, maybe they only play the conference games, so it's a shortened season. I wouldn't even be surprised if eventually they end up having to move it to spring. And I think a lot of people don't want to do that. I think that's a last resort, but I think it could happen. At this point, though, I still would be surprised if there was no season at all, because, like I said, these athletic programs really need the revenue from football. They depend on it. This season needs to happen, so I believe they will find a way. Where there's a will, there's a way, but these next couple of weeks sure are going to be important. But with that, I want to thank you for watching, and until next time.